Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
The Jamodi Podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
You nailed it there, and I could see that from watching. What was the team you played at? Louisville? Was that Timberview?
Frisco Heritage. Incredibly talented team, well-coached team.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they had some great athletes and that one guard, darn good. But they were pressing you, and they were getting up a little bit, and your team was never rattled by it. Instead of, so back to PGC, there's a question we would always ask is, how do you know you've broken the press? And man, kids would ask or answer with so many different things. When you cross half court, if you don't turn it over, when you get to run your offense. But the Dick DiVenzio idea is, man, you've broken their press when you get an easy shot, from it. And but that whole easy shot is really an advantage shot where they've created a 4-on-3 for you. And so you just have to attack. But again, if that's not something that you're talking about every day, then you're going to see kids cross half court and hold it and go, we broke their press. Okay, now coach, what are we doing? And I think that just feeds into teams that do press, but they meet someone like you with the skill that you have, and they're fearless, and you're taking the great shots that they're creating for you. That's the recipe, right?
100%. And the other side of that, and this is my fault, this is something I learned through this playoff run, is when we took the foot off the gas is when we struggled the most. And, and you see late in that Heritage, they got physical, and it became a physical game. And unfortunately, one of our best ball handlers fouled out. But what we were trying to survive, as opposed to keeping that attacking mindset, that advantage mindset, and that was on me. That's not on our kids. That's on me, because it was a true survival mode of, hey, we got to get it across. Let's slow down a little bit. But that's not how we've played all year long. And now, coach, we're trying to play a style that doesn't fit necessarily, where our kids are best at, or most confident at, and so now, does that mean we're going to keep firing up 10 with a minute and a half to go? I don't think so, but it also doesn't mean that we take off that mindset, that advantage mindset, that we're still trying to punish, make quick decisions and punish teams that want to, try to put pressure on us.
I think that's an interesting dilemma that we all find ourselves in, is when the style of play or the identity that we have, that we've talked about, that we practice, that we play a majority of the time, when it might possibly make sense to change it and to slow down, or to press if you're not a pressing team, but they're a little inferior, they don't have good ball handlers, we're going to do this out of nowhere. When you maybe not second guess, but make that adjustment, I always worry, what is this showing my players? Is it fear, or is it that, hey, we like to play fast, but we can't do it against these guys? Or we built this lead, let's not lose it now. I don't know if I have a really good answer to that. So when you're in those decisions, now you're talking about maybe a time where you felt like you didn't do it, or you'd like to do it differently. But I don't know, Coach, how do you, in the moment, know when to keep your foot on the gas or when to take it off?
Man, I wish I had a great answer for this. It's got to be a feel thing. I assume it's got to be.
I think that is the answer.
Personnel-wise.
Yeah.
It's so much about, I would never have, I don't think anybody that watched us leading up into this season would ever say that Burville is a pressing team. But what we found out is being able to put pressure on teams, it was going to, in many cases, expose their skill at a speed that we're used to playing at. And then we play a lot of really, really well coached teams in district that execute really, really well. And they're all going to, for the most part, a lot of them are going to outsize us. A lot of them are they're going to execute really, really well. And so what we needed to do is try and increase possessions and increase the speed of the game, because that way we can expose skill. And with it, luckily enough for me, not from anything that I did, but we had a bunch of skilled kids that when skill gets exposed, we had an opportunity to give ourselves a chance to win, because we were put in situations where we can make quick decisions and give ourselves a great shot. We didn't ever really talk about, how long that shot was going to take, when we were going to get that shot. Is we're just going to get the great shot as quick as possible. I think that might be a Matt Sayman quote. I'm not sure.
Well, it's Mark Cassio, it's Doug Novak, it's Tyler Costin, it's D'Antoni, it's Arsenault at Grinnell. Like you said it earlier, the beautiful thing about this game is just how you can pick and pull. There's not just one system. You can pick and pull so many things, and you can play around, and there's things that we don't do now that we used to do, and there's things we do now that we didn't, and that's just the fun of it. And I mean, I want to get again to you were a huge catalyst for change for me. And yeah, I'll just jump right into that. It was a 19-20 season, and we were more of a pack line man team at that point. But I realized, man, like that style of defense does not really mix well with running and gunning. So we were just playing slower and didn't have much defensive identity. And I ran into you at church, and I don't even remember what church it was. Where was that? Was it Gateway, or where was it? Yeah, maybe.
So, my wife, we were members of Gateway for about 10 years. So it must have been Gateway.
Yeah, at North Richland Hills, I think. Maybe not. Okay. Anyway, saw you, and we were just talking about our seasons. You said, "Man, you got to check out this zone." And in my mind, because up to that point I had pressed before, but it was always back to man, and I had never gone zone before. And my eyes rolled a little bit in my head, like, oh, is this dude really talking to me about a zone? Like, I don't do that. I played for Tommy Thomas at the Colony. We don't play zone. And no, but man, like I was interested because we needed something. We needed a change. And you texted me just a set of rules for this 3-2 pressure zone that you said was doing amazing things for your team. I think maybe the JV at that point, but that Fitch had done, and then learned that Mauser was doing it, and it came from Durant, right? But this zone, Coach, we changed to it that year. We made a Final Four run that year, and then we made a Final Four run the next year. I didn't play one possession of man, but then over the years, and this goes back to kind of what we talked about, listening to players and what they say. We were going to go all zone in again for this next season. And I had a kid in maybe our second game of the year say at halftime, "Hey, coach, can we man these guys?" And I told him, I was like, "Guys, we haven't worked on man. We've only done our 3-2. But we went to it, and they found a level of competitiveness that we weren't getting in the zone. That meeting with you, I think affected me way more than the little talk that you and I had about offense. So I appreciate that. But I think that kind of ties into, though, how we can learn from each other, and we got to be open to share the game. But man, I'm so glad I ran into you that day, because that was huge for us.
For sure. And shout out Coach Durant. Coach Durant took the Keller Indians to the state tournament running that zone. And obviously he had a lot of talent, but it was something at that time, at that stage in the game, that not a lot of people had seen, especially people outside of our area, outside of our region. It might be the first time when we put it on, we'd go to a tournament, and teams, at first they'd run the regular domino action, and it's like fits perfect for us. And it's like they're trying to, and some good coaches too, where they're trying to adjust on the fly, and it just gave us an advantage that we were looking for. We were looking for ways to find an advantage. And those couple of years that we did it, Coach Fitch, and got the kids to really, really buy into it. And we kind of poured over Coach Durant and Coach Mauser and Coach Hudak over there, Coach Mauser and Coach Hudak at Timber Creek, and really tried to find out the ins and outs of how we can make it work and adapt it to our kids. A year there where we had really, really good personnel for it, because we had the length that we felt like that we weren't going to be good enough to guard. guard and man the way we wanted to win at a level that we thought that team could win. So we gave it a shot, and we had a lot of success. We ended up losing in the second round that year to a really, really good team, a team that made it to the state tournament. And that it's kind of funny. We still talk about that game because we were pestering them with the zone, and they ended up holding it for an entire quarter. And we decided during that stall that being down 2 to the number 4 ranked team in Texas going into the fourth quarter, we're going to let them hold it. And that's if we're going to get it, I know you got the shot clock question coming in rapid fire.
It's
and
coming,
you don't even
yeah.
have to ask me now. It's yes. But
The
no,
zone
so
would be
yeah,
even
sharing
better with
things,
the
Coach.
shot clock, though.
100%. But my best skill, just kind of to tie back into how you finish, my best skill is stealing. I'm on the Jamodi podcast. I'm on the Slapping Glass podcast. Probably more than I should.
That's a good one.
Probably more than I should be in class, checking out all the different things that I could steal and bring to the table. And I gotta give another shout out to my assistants, because I always come in like, guys, guess what? Here we go. Look at this. And they're like, here we go again. What, you must have been on Slapping Glass again. But yeah.
Man, that's a good point, though. And I think every time you talk, you just give me just another idea, or you make a great point. It's like there's so many great things out there, and so many, like, I'm like you. I can borrow. I don't create nothing new from me, but I can listen to Mark Cassio, and man, I like that terminology. I can borrow that. But how do you decipher or figure out what you can use and what you can't when everything sounds so good? Because you can't do everything, right?
And that's the thing. That's the wormhole you'll fall down is, I got notebooks full of stuff that I'm like, oh, this might work. But it's really terminology stuff is probably the first one that really jumps out, because terminologies, it's something that doesn't have to be, it's not like an action or a set,
Yep.
or a style of play. It's more of a, hey, I really buy into that terminology. And I really feel like the way that he said that, our kids would grasp, and this is a so much better way to kind of have the terminology that they will trigger their mindset to execute whatever it is that we're talking about. And if we can align our terminology where the kids are like, and the best part of that is hearing them use it. When they say, hey, you got to attack that double gap. You know what I mean? Like, we had an advantage. That's got to be a quick 0-second decision there. We got to get that. And so those terminology things are the ones that I think I try to bring to the table more. And then when it comes to like strategy and sets and those things, I kind of have to slow myself down a little bit. And I was like, make sure that, are we getting the basic movement of our offense down? Are we running the floor like we need to? Okay, we got there. Fundamentally, are we able to create advantages when there are double gaps, or are we able to give one move and get past our guy to draw two? And when we do that, are we making the right decisions? Okay, we're there, which was really, that's the beauty and the special part of the players we had this year, is when we're there and we feel confident, then we can start to inject a lot more of those actions, a lot more of those opportunities to go quick hitters. That's where it really gets really fun, because the kids are really smart. And then you do see something on Twitter. Coach Hudak emails it over to me, and I'm like, let's look at this fifth period today. I think the kids will love this, and so we're not over. I don't think we're over. What's the word? It's not indulgent. I don't know. We're not. I don't think it's overkill, because it's just enough to say, hey, could we use this to get ourselves a bucket, or could we use this to get ourselves a stop in this situation? And if we can, let's insert it. If not, let's kind of hold off. Maybe that's an off-season type thing.
I think there's a fine line between like over tinkering every day, a new wrinkle. Coach Bliss would come down from when at Baylor, he would come down into the gym, and I didn't know if he was asking me this because he was maybe throwing me a bone. He would come down and say, Matt, I know you know this stuff, so I'm going to put you on the white team today, which was the scout team. And he gave me the compliment. I know you know this stuff. But I was like, well, coach, but that's great. But if I'm on the scout team, then you're not really coaching me. So that used to bug me. But he'd also come down and he'd say it the same way. He'd say, Matt, tell me what you think about this. Tell me what you think about this. And it would be a new wrinkle, a new thing. I'm like, well, coach, that's good. But like what we're doing right now to get the ball to Lawrence Roberts, who's going to be an NBA player, that's pretty darn good. But he was always tinkering. I think that you can go too far, but then you can be on the other side of it's been 10 years and we're running the same thing. There's been no changes. And I think there's a balance there, but there is a part where when like you have an identity, I can hear it. I watch your guys play. When you have that, when you know, it's kind of like what Kelvin Sampson said. He's like, if you don't know where you're going, then any path will take you there. If you have an identity or a style of play or a way that you see the game, well, then, man, I'm watching an NBA game and I see a tiny action. I'm like, that. But they've been running 40 other actions that are great, but that doesn't really line up with the way we stand, our spacing, the actions that we already have that can just make it better. So I think that may help from a complete overhaul and tinkering all the time to knowing exactly what that'll work. I don't know. Maybe that helps.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's great stuff, and it's really, really like I'm gonna continue to sing the praises of our kids this year. This is really, really cool to have kids text me something they saw on Twitter, like, Coach, could you imagine, like, hey, Coach, could you imagine Sawyer in this ghost action here? And so, like, and this is, talk about selfless mindset. If I'm a 17-year-old kid texting my coach about a play that's going to get another kid open, that's a buy-in right there. That you're just like, I'm looking at my phone like, wow, that these kids have it figured out. Like, hey, could you imagine? They're like, Coach, could you imagine, getting Trent into this space here? And I'm like, man, you guys, this is what I've dreamed of. I've always had this dream of a group of kids that play for each other so much that only thing that matters is success of everyone, and it's a cool thing. And then in those situations, I'm jumping right into it, because that's even if I feel like we didn't have time to put that on, or we might not get to it, we're throwing it in there because I want them to feel heard. I want them to feel like, hey, if you're going to text me this as a situation, we have a team captain that doesn't play at all, but he's so invested in, hey, Coach, could you imagine if we could get Sawyer coming off this stagger double here? And I'm like, golly, you guys are just, you're just filling my basketball terminology bucket. And I think those are the paychecks that you talk about. I do follow the Jamodi podcast. The paychecks that you talk about, those are the immediate.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, I pray that those long-term paychecks come from those wedding invitations and those things. But these immediate ones are these guys that are just like, hey, I'm bought into how we're trying to play, and I'm also bought into it's not about me.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.